As technology and human innovation evolve, scientists and archaeologists discover more and more about the world around us. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at interesting discoveries from around the world. Amateur historians uncover long-lost World War I tunnel in France where 270 Germans were buried alive. During the Battle of the Chemin des Dames in 1917, several hundred German soldiers took refuge in an underground passage to escape the French guns. They didn't make it out alive, and this location became an enigma for more than a century. Halfway up the Cron Hill, 20 metres under the heavy soil of the Aisne, covered by a thick shroud of limestone and sand, await some 250 bodies of German soldiers buried in a tunnel a century ago. The position and the very existence of this tunnel have long been a mystery, an enigma finally solved in rather unorthodox conditions, which is a story within a story. The story is more than 100 years old, and, as the Volksbund, which is a German association that cares for German war graves, well remembers, it is one of the countless tragedies of the First World War. On May 4th, 1917, more than 200 German soldiers were buried in the Winterberg Tunnel, near the Ladies' Road, by a French shell that closed the entrance. As the oxygen ran out, the men suffocated and lost their lives, or took their own lives. Only 3 soldiers held out long enough before they were rescued, a day before the ridge was occupied by French troops. One of these survivors, Karl Fisser, left a harrowing account of that agony. Everyone was begging for water, but in vain. A comrade lay on the ground beside me and croaked in a broken voice for someone to load his firearm. The names of the victims have been known since then, and their fate was documented, but their bodies were never recovered. Both the German Association and the French National Office of Former Combatants and War Victims, with French archaeologists, have been searching for years for the famous tunnel, researching archives, checking documents, and comparing historical maps with current topography to pinpoint the exact location of the tunnel. Now, at last, they believe they have found it. The site where the men of the 111th Reserve Infantry Regiment from the southern Baden region suffocated during the Second Battle of Aisne, and would have been on a wooded hillside near the French town of Cron, 160 kilometers northeast of Paris. Alain Malinowski and his son Pierre, amateur historians, found the entrance to the tunnel and carried out an illegal excavation at the site they had identified. There they found firearms, ammunition, bayonets, and hundreds of gas mask canisters, as well as the remains of 2 soldiers. Pierre then plugged the hole and contacted the authorities. German and French experts have agreed to carry out further technical investigations in the spring. The risks posed by ammunition and chemical residues, which can come to light through earthworks, must be taken into account. When the results of these investigations are available, legal bodies will decide together with community representatives on the future of the Winterberg Tunnel. Egyptian tomb in Sudan, Sai Island. Ancient Egypt was a technologically advanced civilization in its day. It was at the forefront of science, mathematics, and literature. It was a civilization that prevailed for 3,000 years before succumbing to the might of the Roman Empire, yet it still managed to hold on to its rich and vibrant culture. At one point, the Egyptian Empire had control over vast swathes of what is now modern-day Egypt, Sudan, and the Middle East. Naturally, countless artifacts and remnants of the civilization have been found throughout its former lands, with each discovery providing further insight into this fascinating society. In 2015, archaeologists discovered an ancient tomb with an array of chambers enough for over a dozen mummified corpses. The tomb, which is believed to be around 3,400 years old, was found on the island of Sai, situated near the famous Nile River in the arid lands of northern Sudan. Historically, Sai Island and its surrounding areas, formerly known as Nubia, were mining hotspots for Egyptians, and as such, they sought to protect the area with extensive fortifications and settlements. The island itself contained one of these settlements along with the gold mine. The nature of the work that the Egyptians did on Sai Island led researchers to believe that the bodies in the tomb were those of the gold workers, as well as those who maintained the settlements. Aside from the bodies, the tomb also had a collection of intriguing and potentially valuable artifacts hidden in its depths. These included gold rings, golden masks that were used to cover the dead, and scarabs, which were lavish amulets that had a design inspired by beetles due to their religious significance in ancient Egyptian culture. Some of these artifacts also contained hieroglyphic inscriptions. The researchers, eager to capitalize on any clues that the markings could give to aid the understanding of this mysterious discovery, deciphered the markings and found that the tomb was erected for a master gold worker by the name of Kamos. Researchers hypothesize that the other bodies in the tomb are likely to be his relatives. However, DNA sampling will be required to confirm this. Archaeologists hope that upon further scrutiny, the tomb and its artifacts will reveal more about the life of gold miners around the area. With that said, it will be no easy feat according to Julia Butka, a professor of Egyptian archaeology, as the method of preservation has complicated the analysis of DNA. As of 2021, Butka and her team have uncovered something even more unexpected. They found that all the bodies in the tombs were part of the local population. Although this may seem understandable, it poses an interesting question. At the time, the local Nubians were ruled by the dominant Egyptians, and combined with the fact that all the features of the tomb were quintessentially Egyptian, it suggests that the dynamic between the ruled and the rulers may not have been so clear-cut as previously thought. Researchers are expected to continue unearthing mysterious revelations into the new decade. The Norwegian Viking Saga. What do you think of when you think of saga? Do you think of reality TV shows, or maybe the word takes you back to your high school days? But one thing you probably do not think about when you hear the word saga is the Vikings. As a matter of fact, sagas are a Viking thing. They are defined as long stories of heroic achievement, especially a medieval prose narrative in Old Norse or Old Icelandic. One of the most famous Viking sagas is Sverris Saga. One of the King's Sagas is a group of tales of legendary or semi-legendary Nordic rulers. Of course, these age-old stories are only stories. There is no truth in them, and they were written purely for entertainment. Or so academics thought, until in 2016, researchers made a somewhat unbelievable discovery. Scientists in Trondheim, Norway, discovered a strange skeleton at the bottom of a deep abandoned castle well. The bones did not resemble those of a poor animal who had simply fallen, but those of a creature much more familiar. As researchers began to piece together different parts of the discovery, they eventually concluded something truly startling. Let us go back to the Sverris Saga for a minute. The saga is set in 1197, when the fearsome King Sverris and his ruthless mercenaries are unimaginably defeated at their castle, Sverrisborg. His attackers, a group called the Baglers, burned the castle down and left the king to die, throwing his men into a dark well in the fiery castle grounds. Neither the location nor the name of this castle was ever mentioned in more historically accurate documents. Researchers truly believe that the castle of the Sverris Saga is actually the one where the skeleton in the well was found, and the skeletons themselves could be those of the men whose lives ended defending Sverrisborg that night in 1197. Data quickly backed these claims up. DNA analysis of the bones placed them with a body that existed in the 12th century, and analysis of the abandoned castle works concluded similarly. This means Sverris Saga was actually true, and if this saga was true, then what does that say about the countless other mystical tales that for so long were thought to be figments of the imagination and nothing more? 3.6 million year old Ancestor. Remember the iconic Beatles tune, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds? Many students across the globe will have heard the tale of the excavation team who first discovered Lucy, or Australopithecus afarensis, as she's known to scholars, one of the first humans ever discovered. The archaeologists would blast the Beatles tune around their campsite, and when the time came to name their discovery, they had a certain song stuck in their head. For many years, Lucy was thought to be the oldest human ever found, as she was able to walk upright and more closely resembled modern-day humans than she did modern-day apes. But a recent discovery has shed light on the history of our bipedal ancestors and revealed something quite shocking. We have been walking on two legs for a lot longer than we thought. Described by some as Lucy's great-grandfather, a new hominid skeleton was recently unearthed during an archaeological dig in Ethiopia. Led by Dr. Johannes Haile Selassie, an international team discovered the partial skeleton of an advanced human-like creature that is far, far older than old Lucy. In fact, around 400,000 years older. Nicknamed Kadanamu, meaning big man in the local language, the partially intact skeleton is that of a bipedal male who stood roughly 5.5 feet tall and had pelvic bones that allowed for an easy two-legged stride. Lucy was only 3 feet tall and likely had a much smaller gait than her newly discovered ancestor. So what does this tell us about the whole history of human evolution? Well, much of that answer remains to be analysed, but what can be definitively stated is that, in terms of direct ancestors, humanity is far older than previously realised. We were walking upright nearly 4 million years ago. The discovery of Australopithecus anamensis, as Kadanamu is scientifically known, has unequivocally changed the established chronology of human history and has given scientists infinitely more data to work with in their quest to understand our origins. But what do you make of these impressive recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.